Wooden face. Fine face. Wooden face. Fine face. Fine face. And it gets your face like warmed up.
Super serious.
Where nothing fun or funny ever happens.
This is a super serious thing.
I don't even like dogs.
Super serious.
Awesome.
Because of spin class. We're going. Yay.
Hey.
Start my timer. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Super Serious Dog Podcast. Today, it's just me and Courtney. And by it's just, I mean, it's not, it's just. We're awesome. So
It's just us. Just regular old, the awesome us.
Before I dive into our topic today, I want to give a massive shout out to Courtney.
What?
Because
Me?
Courtney.
Oh, shit. I thought we were shouting out somebody cool. Oh, fuck.
We are shouting out somebody cool. Shut the fuck up. You are cool. People like you, Courtney. But yeah, Courtney just got officially certified as a professional dog trainer. So now
Woohoo!
she can put her CPTD behind her name and hopefully people will take her more fucking seriously.
Yeah.
I
know shit.
It's really exciting. She got it through the Ethology Institute, which is run by Dr. Roger Abrantes, which we've talked about a bunch, and I'm super proud of her.
He told me I was a good dog trainer.
I know. You have to like submit videos and stuff. So
Yeah. He saw Phoebe. He saw me working with Phoebe and was like, "You're a good dog trainer." Yeah.
How's it feel?
I feel
How's it feel?
accomplished, honestly. It was a lot of work. So it's kind of late in my career to be getting the certificate, I feel like. I don't know.
I'm not certified, so you beat me at least.
All right. Just with like how much I've worked with dogs up until this point, like, so a lot of what I learned was kind of just like refreshing the textbook side of stuff. I did learn some new stuff in the section of the CPDT, but I'm continuing on to get more letters, more certifications. Yeah. Look how smart I sound.
Dude, honestly, it's never too late, right? Like I've
Yeah.
known people who like go back to school when they're like in their 50s and they're like, I'm gonna get my bachelor's degree and blah blah blah, like
Yeah.
it's never too late. And this is awesome. And on top of that, like you did this through COVID.
Yes.
So it was a hellacious year, which like on the Ethology Institute side had its own problems and headaches because they're trying to figure out how to keep the thing going.
Right.
And
And I'm trying to
COVID
figure out
happened.
how to teach Phoebe stuff that I've never taught a dog before, because like the video portion of it is quite challenging.
Yeah. Very specific.
It's very specific on really nuanced things. So the dog really has to understand what you're teaching, which like you would think, of course, the dog always needs to understand what you're teaching. But like, like think about like you tell your dog sit and it lays down. Like that's not a big deal in everyday life. But in this, like you say sit, the dog needs to sit. Or when you stop walking in a heel, the dog needs to sit automatically, except for when you tell it to stand in motion and like all these nuanced things. So it was quite challenging, but we did it.
So
I'm
exciting.
proud. I'm happy.
I can't wait to see the next steps of it because Courtney has to work with like a horse next, and then she has to train another mammal of her choosing. So it'll be really cool. Very exciting. So
Yeah.
So everybody bombard us with messages and telling us how proud you are of Courtney. Okay, cool. Let's dive into our topic because there's a lot we want to talk about, and honestly, it probably is going to spill over into our longer episode because there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned before, right? I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with B-Town, right? And one of the options that we've talked about is euthanasia. It's not ideal, right? It's not my favorite option. It's
Wait. Slow down for the people that may be listening to this for the first time.
Okay. So I am
Just give a
pregnant.
little bit of backstory there.
I am pregnant. I have a Chihuahua who has fantastic obedience, but he is very, very emotionally reactive to people encroaching on his space, or if he suddenly is uncomfortable or afraid or anything like that. And when he bites very, very, very hard. Sometimes, like, just through relationship building and kind of easing up on expectations of him in terms of his obedience and just letting him be more of a dog and learning to listen to him better, he has improved dramatically over the years. But he's basically always been like this. And it's my understanding that he truly believes that biting is the only way to survive in those very specific instances. And what's difficult about him is that depending on his emotional state, his personal boundary changes. So normally I might be able to accidentally trip over him and he doesn't try to bite me. And then other times I step within a foot of him and he goes after my foot. So
which keep in mind, he is a Chihuahua. He's a small black Chihuahua. So tripping over him can happen very easily.
And right? He likes to hover and he's a little ninja and he's got black fur. So in your peripherals, there's a certain point in your peripheral vision where you can't see him anymore. So I have to constantly look down before I take a step. Right. And there's all these things I love him so much. He's got so many amazing things about him, but I'm having a baby. Right. And the first year or so, maybe 2 years, it'll probably be fine. I don't really foresee a lot of problems. I think it'll be very easy to manage him. What I'm really scared of is when toddler becomes a self-centered, walking, mobile, babbling, grab everything kind of human, right?
The two-legged kind.
Right? And that's going to be really difficult to manage 24/7, right? Because I can manage B-Town for several hours at a time. That's not a problem. I've taken him to, huge crowds of people, like fairs where you're trying to promote your dog training and stuff like that. And, I've taken him to family functions where I have family members who are a little bit not the best at following instructions and that sort of thing, right? And just mentally a little bit slower, right? That sort of thing. So I could manage that. The problem is you have to start thinking about the total quality of life, right? So euthanasia is on the table. It has to be. But it is not our favorite option, right? And so it's the
obviously
easiest.
Obviously not.
Right. I've cried a lot about this. So that's why I'm not crying about it now. Lee and I have had some extremely difficult conversations about what to do, what the timeline might look like. And I don't want to wait for the inevitability of when my kid gets bit, because it might not happen now. It might happen way later on down the line.
But and for people who aren't understanding the severity of this, it only takes one time of the baby gate not latching behind you, or you forgetting to put the back tie on him, or not having the muzzle on him because your hands were full, or whatever the scenario is. It only takes one time of that happening for it to go wrong, and for Boston to now have bit your kid, and for now you to have to deal with the emotional battle that's going to go on inside of you because now your kid has been bit. This thing that you brought into the world that you're meant to protect and raise and all of that, and it got hurt because of an inevitable problem that you knew was coming.
Exactly. I don't honestly. So I would say on average, now it's a lot less. But on average, I would say Boston used to bite us about once a month. Now, that might have been we'd go 3 months and nothing would happen, and then he'd bite us 3 times within the span of a few weeks, right? But I'd say on average, it was at least once a month. And I've had him since he was about 1.5 years old. I didn't know he was like this when I got him. The only time that I knew he had ever bit anybody was because somebody was putting eye medication in his eye for 3 days in a row, and he got fucking sick of it, which is totally reasonable. I get that. That never bothered me, right? It was just once I really got to know him, there was a lot that I discovered that if I knew, Lee and I knew we were going to eventually have kids, and had I known that, I wouldn't have necessarily adopted him. I would have passed. Right. But the point is that we've had him for almost 6 years. He's 7 this year. I don't want to get rid of him. Right. And basically the whole thing that we've been looking at is quality of life. So quality of life is the overarching thing that you should always consider with any dog. And quality of life is really, really, really complex, because usually when you hear dog trainers talk about it, they talk about just the dog side of it, right? Like everybody gets really heartbroken when they see a dog chained up in a backyard and that dog never leaves the backyard and it never goes inside, right? That's a very clear, obvious, like, quality of life. But if that dog has only ever known that, he's probably having the time of his life. He doesn't give a shit.
He doesn't know what he's missing out on.
He doesn't know, right? Exactly. But could he have a better quality of life? Yes. But given the frame of everything, like, he's happy. Usually they get to dig holes, they get to shit when they want. It doesn't matter. Like, dogs are very resilient. They tend to adapt to temperatures, right? And as long as they're getting fed and, they get water, they have a shelter, like, he's generally going to be happy, right?
Yeah. I've seen them playing with their toys, just like,
right.
This is where I play. This is where I dig holes. Yeah,
exactly. Like, a lot of people think street dogs are, poor babies, right? But they're literally doing what, like, PETA wants them to do.
Yeah.
PETA says nobody should own dogs, period.
Yeah. When I went on my honeymoon, I went to another country where I told one of the people there what I did for a living, and they literally laughed at me, like, hard. He was like, "What? What?" Because there were dogs there, but they were just street dogs. Like, they just went around the street. People they weren't mean to them, but, like, they didn't, coddle them in any way. And we went to one place and there were some dogs around, and I, like, fucking was like, "What's up, dogs?" Gave them some body language, and they were like, "Oh shit, a human." And they ran up to me happy as shit, and I got to, like, play with them, and I was like, "Oh my God, I found dogs in another country." And, like, these people don't even, like, interact with dogs the way that Americans do, but I made friends with them. I don't know if it was me or just, like, the dogs are really cool. They're chilling. Yeah. They're living their best life.
Yeah.
And then the guy came over and yelled at the dogs, and they ran away because they weren't supposed to be there, because a whole bunch of things, the monkeys, and, like, it was a whole thing, and they were like, "No, the dogs are scared of the monkeys are scared of the dogs, so we try to keep the dogs out of here."
Right, because the monkeys are the tourist attraction, not the dogs.
Right.
Unless your name is Courtney.
And then I'm like, "Dogs!" I mean, monkeys, cool, but, like, dogs, yay.
So yeah, like, imagine taking a
love dogs
that has ultimate freedom like that, and suddenly being like, "Cool, you have to walk on a leash now. You have to sleep in a cage. You have to shit within these hours that I give you. You need to eat within these time frames." That quality of life is severely degraded now.
Right, a lot of dogs like that go through a massive depressive stage, where they're like, "Oh, what is happening to me?" They usually are the ones that hurt themselves trying to escape the kennel. They try to dig out of a yard. They pull on leash. They're reactive because they're resistant to this wonderful quality of life that we think we're giving them. Right. Because to them, and from their perspective, it's just a massive change.
Yep. So, quality of life really takes a lot of perspective to look at, right? And then, for pet dogs that are born into a home, they're bred intently to be pets, right? We selected qualities that make them, a little bit lazier than they would be, like everybody thinks of, like, happy fat labs that are food motivated and, like,
golden retrievers,
greyhounds, right? Greyhounds have, like, bursts of energy, but generally speaking, they sleep like 20 hours a day or something. I don't know what it is actually, but so it really, really you kind of have to take that sort of stuff into consideration. But the other side of it too is, like, okay, there's a lot of different facets of quality of life, right? There's the quality of life with each individual within the house. Courtney, I know you've seen this before with clients where, like, everybody in the house loves the dog except for one person, or everybody in the house hates the dog except for one person. So the quality of life for those individuals in relationship to that specific dog is completely different experience.
Yes.
And that's important to take into consideration. So when I'm thinking about B-Town, my quality of life is important in that, like, I know I'm not going to be able to constantly manage it, and I'm fortunate enough to have a really supportive partner who would help me manage it, but sleep deprivation is real, and I make stupid decisions sometimes when I'm deprived of sleep, and not even, like, consciously either, right? Then there's kind of, like, the family as a whole, right? And the quality of life that stress of having to make sure that Boston is constantly hyper managed, constantly on place, constantly in a muzzle, constantly behind like 3 fucking baby gates, and maybe muzzled and tethered, and who knows, right? Like that's going to be its own level of stress on our relationship, mine and Lee's.
Yeah, and like you're saying 3 baby gates and a muzzle and a tether is because you have to figure out what level of management works. What is fail proof? What happens if the tether breaks, the muzzle falls off, and he gets through 1 gate? Well, shit, he's still got 2 more gates to get through. Somebody can get to him by then. You know what I mean?
Right. Like I don't work at a zoo. I don't know. I can't build a moat around each room. Right. And so that's a consideration, of course.
Or like little hamster pathways, like I talked about.
Yeah.
Just little Boston paths.
I would love to have tunnels all through my house for B-Town. That sounds so cool. The problem is my house is too small for that.
Right.
My house is a little too compartmentalized. And honestly, like we could have kept trying to find a bigger house to purchase, but honestly the market is absolutely insane in Austin right now, and quite frankly I didn't have an extra $100,000 lying around to just go buy the house that would be perfect for all of us, right?
What?
Yeah,
you don't just have like hundreds of thousands of dollars laying around?
No, and I'm kidding.
With these prices, it seems like you should. Jesus.
I'm not kidding you. That's not an exaggeration. We got outbid on several houses around $50K. Most of them were around $100K, and a few were like up to like $130 was the highest that we got outbid. And that's not including down payment, people. So you have to have another like $40K on top of that to buy a house in Austin right now. It's insane. So we got really lucky. We basically got a new build, so we were able to skirt around all that like competitive crap. But it was small. We originally passed on this house because of that, because we wanted to consider B-Town. He is part of our family. We made a choice. We made a commitment to him. But we also have to take into consideration everything else, right? The other thing too is like, obviously I had to think about Boston's quality of life. The amount of micromanagement that he would have to be under is even more than what I used to have him under, that I've talked about. Like, I regret having him on place 24/7 for like a couple of years straight, because like, not because I was lazy, but because I truly believed that was what was best for him.
Right.
And then when I stopped doing that, I realized that wasn't best for him at all. He's so much happier now. And that obviously is just one really simple example of like the overall picture, but like he was constantly in a heel, and sure, he got to be off leash, but it was always under this tether of, you will do everything when I say. Like, he never really got a chance to just be himself and relax. Right. And I can't imagine that he is going to get less grumpy as he gets older, especially considering he's already got pain issues.
I have never heard of a dog getting less grumpy as they got older and more arthritic. Ever.
I know one dog. Her name's Calliope. She was my first dog, and then my mother-in-law fell in love with her. And so she's been living with her ever since, for the last 10 years. And she has gotten cuddly and affectionate over time. And who knows, maybe B-Town will do that too. Who the fuck knows? But I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket, right?
Right.
And having to be on muzzle 24/7, having to be tethered constantly, having to be behind baby gates and all that I don't think that's a quality of life he would appreciate. The other thing too that we talked about is rehoming. And most sanctuary situations he would not be happy in. He doesn't like tons and tons of dogs, and being in like a quote dog park situation. Of course, living in around a bunch of dogs is different, but like, he really doesn't like being around tons and tons of dogs and having to live in that environment. Now, there are sanctuaries and things like that where they take a small number of dogs, or it's only small dogs, and they're just like crazy Chihuahua people, and they don't give a shit if they get bit and whatever. But like, those wait lists are long because they can only take, in any sanctuary, the wait lists are long, especially with COVID. And it could be years before he ever gets into one. Right. And me finding that perfect unicorn human being that would accept him for everything and truly listen to me when I tell them like this is what he's like I ethically don't think it's safe to rehome him because of the way he bites, because like I would rehome him to a few select people that I trust, but guess what? I've talked to those people and nobody's going to fucking take him because either they know they want to have kids or maybe their life is too transient or because they also have constantly rotating dogs coming in their house, coming and going, and that's just too stressful for him. So, you know, our options are really limited. And what Lee and I did, by the way, for those of you that are wondering, we set up consultations with tons of people. So I set up a consultation with Pat Stewart because he's sort of like, you know, obedience, working dog guy. You know, he's got his own personal experiences with dangerous dogs living in his house with children, right? He works with Malinois that are literally bred to kill and maim, right?
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's going to be a great resource. We talked to my veterinarian and we were like, okay, I know this is off the wall, but like, what if we removed his teeth or what if we just removed his canines just to minimize damage, right? And of course, my vet was like, barring like, you know, ethical stuff or whatever, but she was like, honestly, you'd have to remove all of his teeth and that's really painful. And like, he could still do damage in other ways, which is also something Pat Stewart said too. They still have a lot of
the jaw strength is incredible. And if he knows he's going to know he doesn't have teeth. So he's going to know he needs to hit harder.
Yep.
And he's going to be more stressed. You're taking away his teeth.
Yep.
That's going to induce so much stress.
And he loves like chewing on bones and sticks and stuff. And like, it's just, again, it's another quality of life issue that like, I never wanted to do it, but like we had to ask, right? And my vet has known Boston for a very, very long time. Like she left the previous practice she was at and I like basically hounded my previous vet's office until they finally were just like, fuck it, just tell her where she went. Yeah. We don't want to deal with this lady anymore. And so,
good job, Misia. Good job.
Like when you find a good vet that's like kind and understanding, when you have like this asshole Chihuahua who's very difficult, like she did acupuncture with him. I don't know any other vet that would do that for him, you know. Yeah. And it actually was pretty helpful. But again, I kind of ultimately decided quality of life, like it is really stressful. I wanted to see if it would have an impact. And if he ever like tweaks himself out, I think it would be a really good treatment plan for him. Or certainly if I just notice he's a little bit stiff or more ticklish or something, right? Like we might revisit that. But it was also just kind of a shot in the dark. Like, does this help? I don't know.
Right.
I'm willing to try anything.
Right.
And then I talked to one of my friends, Alex, who's in rescue and who used to be like me. When we worked together at Austin Pets Alive, we were the type of people that were like, adopt, don't shop. Fuck you. You committed. You adopted this dog. You will commit. You will do whatever it takes to make it work. And if you don't, you're a shitty person. Right. And of course, we never like say that to people's faces.
No, but I held the same thing. I thought anyone who ever gave up their dog for any reason was a piece of shit person.
Yep.
Just deep down, I was like, oh, you rehomed your dog? Wow. You suck.
Yep. Exactly.
Mostly because like I kept my dog Dixie through a lot of really shitty life events that most people would have rehomed a dog in, but I didn't. I can't say that what I did was better quality of life for her, other than the fact that she had me as a consistent thing. That was about the only consistent thing, but you know, we made it work.
Honestly, she had a great life, you know, and
she did. And she gave me a reason, which sometimes that's a big quality of life factor too, is I had to get through that period of my life because my dog and I needed a lot of stuff. So I had to work for it because she wasn't. She was fucking wanted to eat poop and run around.
And there's people who give up their dogs and rehome their dogs for less, like just chewing stuff up. Like
peeing on the carpet.
And if Boston was pissing on the carpet, I don't give a shit. I'd figure that out, right? Like it's frustrating, yes. But I'm talking about emotionally scarring my child. I'm talking about resenting B-Town because of what he does, what he will eventually do to my dog, my child, or my children's friends, right? And you know, all
or your children's friends' parents.
Exactly.
You know, like when it's an infant, like people are going to come over, like your parents are probably going to come over. You know, Lee's parents, me, other people, like there's going to be people coming into your house and wanting to see this little thing that you have that he can't be around. And
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so there's a lot of things to consider, and we're not taking this decision lightly. And like, there's a lot of things that I'm going to do to set up his life to where he's prepared for it. And, like I'm going to go back to using his e-collar a little bit just so I have a little extra bit of control and like just kind of just in case type of thing. We're going to make it fun. And like, I'm just basically going to do nothing but fun shit with him while he's wearing it, and like just basic engagement. And then I'll start eventually using it for things and potentially corrections and stuff like that. But for now, that's kind of the game plan. But our final option that we sort of landed on, minus like, one other thing that we're going to do, I have to schedule an appointment. We've just been in the process of moving and stuff like that. Is I'm going to schedule an appointment with a behaviorist. I know what a lot of behaviorists typically tend to recommend. I've suggested tons of clients go to them. There's only a handful in Austin, so like I know kind of like the ones. There's literally 2, and so I know what this particular guy is going to recommend. We're definitely going to talk about euthanasia, but we're also going to consider medication, right? Like, Boston isn't an anxious dog day to day. And I've tried anxiety meds for specific situations. I've tried like mild sedatives like gabapentin and that kind of stuff for other stressful situations. But my vet was basically saying there might be a cocktail of things that works well for him that may just help take the edge off a little bit and make it to where all the other things that we're going to have to do are a little bit less stressful for him. Right. But I certainly don't want him to be a zombie. Right. I'm not going to just knock him out and, just basically have a fucking rug of a dog on the floor. And our final option and our best option and our favorite option and the most expensive option, of course, it's the most fucking expensive one, is we have to like look into it and see if there's like custom things, but those like sheds that they sell at like Home Depot for like outdoor storage, but they have like little windows and they're kind of like cute looking and stuff. They're not just like, store your lawnmower in there, like type of shed. It's like a nice shed. So there's this company in Richardson up in Dallas, basically, that makes these prefabbed little sheds that are insulated. They're climate controlled. They come with lighting and that kind of stuff. And so they cost like $15,000 and you can finance them and that kind of stuff. So that's currently kind of one of our favorite options because
you're going to get B-Town his own house.
He's going to get his own fucking house. Yes. Little bastard. No, I'm just kidding. But the benefit is like, because this house is kind of small and right now, like, my podcast room, my gaming PC, Lee's gaming PC, and his home office is all going to have to be in the same room because we only have 3 bedrooms and one of those has to be baby and I have to sleep somewhere.
Right.
So one of the things that would do is allow Lee to have a totally separate home office. Mm-hmm. And then that way Lee would be also spending a lot of time in there. We're still going to continue taking him for daily walks like we do. We'll play fetch with him all the time. And really not much is going to change. And B-Town does like kind of having his own space. Our front yard fence is separate. There's like we built it after the fact, basically, like after we bought the house. So there's a gate that segregates the backyard from the front yard. And then the front door isn't connected at all to the front yard.
Oh, wow.
And so like if we ever have to go out of town, like you could come over and just feed him.
Right.
And like literally his day would barely change, right? Other than maybe not going on a walk or something like that for a couple of days while we're out of town. And of course, like if the weather's really shitty, he gets like scared of thunderstorms and stuff. Like he would come in, he'd still have a kennel in the house, but like that could be his space. Rocky could go hang out in there with him and he'd still get tons of time, but there's like, it's just more of a fail safe way. There's no like, kid can't stick his fingers in between a solid door like he can a baby gate or something, So that's kind of what we're looking at. Obviously, I don't really want to spend $15,000 right now after all the money we just spent buying a house.
I mean, all the options suck on some level, right? Mm-hmm. Like it just kind of, you're fucked all the way around.
Right. That's what I get for falling in love with him.
Yep. Damn dogs being all awesome and shit, even when they suck sometimes. Yeah.
But you know, like, and when I talked to my friend Alex, who was in rescue, and I talked to like my vet, and I told her about that we told them about those options. They're both like, dude, there are so many dogs that have a much worse quality of life. Like those dogs whose owners never cut their nails, or the dogs that are super overweight because I just love them so much and I just want to give him treats and bones all the time.
Because he's a cute, chunky boy.
Right. Like that's not good for them either. Right. And yes, I know the dog may not enjoy cutting its nails, but having that pain of like nails being overgrown and then the feet get really flat and then they're more prone to arthritis and all these other problems, especially if they're overweight on top of it and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
There's
elbows, shoulders, the whole
right.
thing.
There's
Knees,
so many
hips.
people out there that think that they're doing the best thing for their dog and they might be oblivious to the fact that they're not. We see it all the time where like your clients, you have a client that has like a blind dog or a deaf dog or something, and they're just used to like couch potato dogs. And then this other dog came into their life and they loved it. And it's honestly, for the most part, a good fit, but they did have to adjust their life a little bit because the dog was not at all thriving. He was starting to like just very, very slowly.
Yeah, we're starting to see more problem behaviors because it was not getting the fulfillment that it needed. But they just need to adjust their life a little bit because they're used to the expectations set by a deaf boxer that likes to sleep a lot.
Right.
Which like talk about like super low maintenance.
Yep. And what's really funny is like, you know, you see these situations like that, like, oh, adapt your life. Sure. But their adaptation of their life is like going on walks when they never went on walks before or whatever. Like, I don't really know that. I don't remember the details.
Oh, no, they went on walks before.
Okay.
But not with a dog that wanted to go fast and be first and do all of the things and get there, make friends and life outside is wonderful. The boxer's just kind of like, cool, let's go for a walk. Yeah. All right.
And
we're
maybe
walking.
Instead of like,
are we done walking yet? Because that's a lot of walking, you know? I'm going to take a big nap when we get home. Definitely.
And they go like 1 or 2 blocks, whereas like the other dog needs to go like way more.
Miles.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, like I'm not taking this decision lightly. B, there's a lot that we have to consider. And hopefully at the very least, like, you know, if you've ever had to give up a dog, like don't feel bad, even if you did it for a stupid reason, like just chewing stuff up, because like
you don't know what you don't know.
Yes, you don't know what you don't know. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? Maybe you should have never gotten that dog in the first place, and that's your lesson that you learned, is that like I'm going to be more deliberate and honest with my expectations and that sort of thing, right?
You know, I actually learned this lesson. Like I mentioned, I was someone who thought anybody that gave up a dog was a shitty person. Up until Jada. Jada was the one that taught me that it's okay to give up a dog sometimes. Sometimes it's just not a good match. There's a better life out there for the dog. So let it go live its good, better life. And you know what? Jada is fucking thriving in her life now. And it's so wonderful for me to see, because I had her for a year and I was like, I don't know. Ruka didn't like her. She got on my nerves, and that's probably why Ruka didn't like her. And she just had these weird quirks that like weren't fitting with my vibe, my pack, my lifestyle. And it, I mean, she was a good dog. It wasn't like big things I could fault her for, but there were just moments where I was like, oh, and nobody wants to feel that way towards a dog that they're like, this is my dog, but I'm mad at her all the time. I'm irritated by her. So I learned that it's okay, and I got her to a much better home.
Isn't she the dog you traded like Pepper? You got Pepper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, 5 dogs is our limit, right? No more than 5 dogs, no exceptions, 5 dogs, right? So I had Jada, and then Pepper came in as a rehab foster type thing. 2 months is how long I was supposed to have her, and my husband fell in love with her. Just head over heels. They bonded. She was afraid of people, and I mean, she bonded with me pretty quickly, or not pretty quickly, but once she bonded with me, she was like, okay, people are actually awesome. This guy that lives here, what's up with him? Can I be his best friend? And they just like, they just clicked. It was the cutest thing. And
I love Pepper.
yeah. And when it was time for Pepper to go back to her home, that wasn't a good fit for her and somewhere she definitely didn't need to be. And they didn't want her. They were looking for a new home for her because it wasn't a good fit. And they had found a backyard she could go live in. And I was just like, I can't imagine handing this dog back and just sending her to live in a backyard. And Jay was like heartbroken about it, but 5 dogs is our limit. And I was actually wondering, like, is this the time? Is this the time when Jay is going to ask me if we can have 6 dogs? Because holy shit, I never thought this day was coming.
Especially coming from him. Like, it'd be one thing if you wanted a 6 dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I had already been kind of playing with the idea that maybe Jada wasn't fitting. Maybe she needed to go somewhere else. And Janelle, another trainer friend of mine, loved her and had made a comment that if you ever want to rehome Jada, I will take her in a heartbeat. And so my husband was like, can we trade Pepper for Jada? And I was like, let me ask Janelle. So Janelle took Jada and I kept Pepper. And
both dogs lived happily ever after.
Yeah. Well, Jada actually didn't fit in very well with Janelle's pack either.
Oh, no.
And now Jada lives with Janelle's brother. She is a single dog and she is the happiest dog in the world.
That's awesome.
She gets to go play fetch off leash. She's super well behaved. He gets complimented on her behavior because, I mean, she spent 3 years living with dog trainers. I got her out of a backyard. She was living in a backyard. She wasn't allowed inside and she was bonkers.
Yeah. Didn't know what to do when she
didn't know what.
inside.
Yeah, she was a spaz inside. It was very clear she had never been in there. So I had her for a year and then went to Janelle for I think about 2 years and then went to her brother. And happily ever after is where they're at right now.
Yep.
So it is okay to rehome a dog sometimes. Like that is okay if you can't keep a dog.
Yep.
But do your best to try to make sure it goes somewhere good.
Yep. And don't just try to dump it on somebody
Think about
else.
quality of life for everybody involved.
I feel like if I tried to rehome Boston to somebody, I would be not a bitch, but I would be so meticulous and so particular.
To the point where they would not take you seriously.
Yeah.
They would be like, okay, crazy lady.
Yes.
Just hand over this dog, get out of my life. And then they would end up getting really hurt because they didn't take you seriously.
Yep.
And
because I was the crazy person.
Right.
Right. And so, well, on that note, this episode is a little bit longer than they usually are. So y'all are welcome. But we had a good flow and it's an important topic. So I wanted to keep it going, but we're going to keep talking about stuff. So if you're not a Patreon, go check us out on Patreon. We got lots of great content on there. We're going to keep talking for another hour about this stuff. So go to patreon.com/super serious dog podcast. There's a couple different tiers that you can choose from.
There's a couple free episodes if you scroll down so you can see what it's like to listen to us for a whole hour.
Yep. So you can definitely check that out. If you have questions, if you want to congratulate Courtney, you can certainly email us at superseriousdogpodcast@gmail.com. We really appreciate y'all's support. Let us know if there's any topics you want to hear us talk about or anything like that, or people you want us to interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or consultations. Hey.
Ooh, or consultations. Yes. If you're like, kind of want to talk to a dog trainer, but you want to go through like the whole
and you're cool being recorded and interviewed by us.
Yeah.
Come on down. All right, wrap it up.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.